Wayne are ready to go. So
Okay.
This
Chris?
conference will now be recorded.
And we
All right, very good. I assume I see Jim. Do I see Claire?
no Claire today, Frank. Just
Claire's
you and
kept-
I.
Claire won't be here today.
Okay, very good. All right, well then let the minutes show that Jim Beisman and Frank Geltner are present. Claire has been excused, and we've already looked at the April 8th minutes, and they have been approved as distributed, unless you had any corrections, Jim.
I do not.
Okay. All right, then other business, OSU Extension, 4-H update.
Good morning, all. Boy, the saga continues. On the fair side, fair is proving to be challenging with all the requirements. Although I'm still seeing positive signs. I was in a fair board meeting, fair association meeting last week where probably 2/3 of the fairs have decided that they are indeed going to have a fair, and of course we're one of them. We still don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We're planning for what's possible with the plan B of having to modify on the fly if need be. The one thing that I would say that I think is very positive, and it was pointed out at the association meeting as well, is the governor's new easing of restrictions based on vaccinations. Seems to be sort of a movement across the country to get reopened, and then California yesterday announced that they will be mask-free by mid-June. So I think all of those are pointing in a positive direction. I still can't tell you exactly what our fair is going to look like, but we're going to have something. Fundraising and sponsorship has proved to be challenging. We knew that going in. We knew that likely we'd have to subsidize this fair. Along those lines, I'm cutting things in the budget, keeping the purse strings as absolutely tight as we can, but still intending to put on a good event. We've got local musicians, which cost us less, lined up for all 3 days. We are going to do a new event that we had planned for last year that didn't happen because we canceled the fair, called our Dance in the Dirt. That's going to be a Saturday evening dance right down on the arena floor after the rodeo. Local band called Smoke Wagon is going to headline that for us. So we do have some good fun stuff going. We have the free monster truck rides for kids coming in all day Friday, which will be a big draw. Sounds like we probably will not have a senior barbecue in discussions with Dave Miller and Lyle Matson. They just don't feel like they can rally the requirements for food service on Friday, and that's going to be a big disappointment, unfortunately. But I certainly understand their position. Anyway, planning is going, and Heather and I are just working through it as we can. I think, Christy, if you can allow Heather to screen share, she's got a draft that she'd like to share with everybody.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
That is the initial draft of our fair poster for this year, drawn again by Casey McEnany, the artist that's done them since we started. This will be the, I believe, the 7th in his posters that he's done, and I think it's particularly apropos after the season that we just went through, where none of us probably would have believed that we would have had a full year of COVID and shutdowns and restrictions, etc. So it'll change a little bit. We'll get our sponsors on there as we develop them, but that will be able to be released and printed and distributed shortly. So hopefully you guys can all see that and think that it's as fun as we think it is.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, fun stuff. On the 4-H front, some big news as well, with the anticipation of our county going back to moderate risk level. We'll be able to open face. I say again, closed and open and closed and open and closed, and now looking at reopening. So we're happy about that. And we do have approved to reopen, and a couple more that I hope for fair and be able to contribute to exhibits in some form. We do know that exhibits are going to be down across the board, whether in class in the main hall or 4-H exhibits, but we're just rolling with it. We got to start somewhere, and we're making the venue possible and display whatever we get to display. The other big news on the 4-H front is that there's been significant movement over the last week to get approval for 4-H youth groups to work within the parameters of the venue matrix approved by the governor, which is the same matrix that fairs would fit under, rather than the higher education matrix, which is the matrix that we've been working under during this whole COVID restriction. And those are vastly different in the number of people that we can have in a venue, the way that people can interact, mask wearing, etc. So it does look like it's going to get approved, and at least for the time of fair, 4-H will be operating under the same guidance that the fair is operating under, instead of a completely separate guidance, more restrictive, that pertains to higher education. So how they arrived at that, or why the higher education restriction has been important for the last year, but now is not important during fair, I don't know. That's well above my pay grade, but it does look like that'll happen for fair, and that'll be a significant easing for the 4-H group to be able to participate in fair. I think that's everything I had. Heather, is there anything I missed or anything that you had?
I don't believe so. We're about, I'd say about 40-ish% capacity on vendors. So I've been hoping to get an email out to our previous vendors today to remind them to sign up for fair. Oh, and the other thing, and I don't know if Todd's mentioned this to Wayne, and I don't want to forget it either. We do need someone to help collect fees for us in the evenings, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then after rodeo each day, because I don't want to be carrying that much cash around. So
Wayne,
I think that's all I have.
Yeah, Wayne, let's just put that on your plate to find whoever that volunteer is, whether Fair Board members want to split that out or a designee by the county. But one of the restrictions that OSU really wants us to comply with is not for us to be doing that cash handling, cash management. It's about an hour-long detail at the end of each day, just to go to the vendors and collect revenue. And then after the rodeo, same thing, about an hour. So 5 hours over the course of fair, and it does not need to be the same person each time. We've got some time to work on it. We don't need to know who that person is now, but hopefully a couple of weeks out so we can talk through the procedure with whoever that designee will be, or designees. Thank you, Heather. I had forgotten that. Any other questions for us?
No, but on that last topic, Christy, will you follow up on that?
Yes.
Because obviously I'm out of range, and I don't know about Jim or Claire, so let's just leave it at that for now. And Todd, on that poster, I'm sure there was a date on there, but I didn't see it. Is that, can that be put back up for a minute?
Well, I don't think the poster's complete yet, Frank. I think that's really just the background. They've still got things to be added to it, information to be added. Is that not correct, Todd?
That is correct, Jim. And generally the date is right at the top where it says Lincoln County Fair. It'll say 2021. I'm not sure. I don't, an eidetic memory to tell you if this one said that or not, but if it doesn't have a date, we'll certainly get that on there, Frank. Thank you.
It's on the very bottom, but I can make it more prominent. We're still working through it.
Okay, and also let's be careful to say Lincoln County Commons, okay?
No problem.
All right. All right, very good. Anything else from either Heather or Todd?
Nothing from us. Thank you as always for your support. We certainly couldn't do this without a strong fair board.
Well, what about this reference on the agenda to a vaccination booth?
Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
All right, this is Wayne Belmont. Sorry. And let me just follow up a couple of things with what Todd said. And thank you, Todd, for that information. The first is that, as Todd was indicating, we actually are moving in the right direction in terms of our response to COVID. So the county is actually moving as of tomorrow into the moderate risk level. We actually qualify there. We planned based on some targeted vaccination rates, and I think we may be the #1 county in the state and the percentage of the population 16 and older that's vaccinated. If we're not #1, we're #2. And we're moving towards that target that will, at the very least, move us into the low risk category by the time the fair rolls around. And potentially, and I say this with a lot of caveats, but potentially to a point where actually there'll be no restrictions in place by the time of the fair. That is the lofty goal right now of the entire state. And we are continuing to move forward with a number of options and alternatives for vaccination to try and catch parts of our population that have not yet had an opportunity to vaccinate, or because of work schedule, other kinds of things have the difficulty of doing multiple shots, for instance. So we'll have to stay tuned to that. We'll continue monitoring that, and that could free us up that we don't have to go to Todd's plan B, which is a more restricted fair, but we'll continue to monitor that as we go forward. That's the first thing. The second is that one of the things that we had talked about, I've been talking to our team that's actually looking at vaccination opportunities, and they are really liking the idea. They're doing a lot more mobile vaccination, what we call pop-up vaccination clinics in various areas, because it seems to catch people. And one of the things they actually requested of me to ask the fair board, Todd and Heather, is there a possibility, if there is room, that we can set up a small area in the exhibition hall in which people could come in and actually get a vaccination if they're not vaccinated. They have the medical reserve team could staff that. They would have to obviously screen it off in a way that would preserve some privacy for folks that would do it, but it'd be an opportunity. They are looking to try and participate in more events and at more locations and venues for these kinds of events to really squeeze out the last vaccination opportunities that are coming up here. So I'd like to put that out there for discussion and see if that's something that could be done. You know, and it could be sized and staffed at a level that doesn't interfere with the other vendors that are in the exhibition hall.
Wayne, let me just respond to that. You can pass this back on to the people you're talking with. I don't think there's a way to accommodate a small section, but if they will commit to a large section, let's do it. I think we're going to have plenty of room for them, and we'd love to have them in there doing it. Come to the fair and get your vaccination.
Yeah, I think we can reserve the whole Harney building for something like that, because I don't think we're going to have enough 4-H exhibits to fill that building, and they'll probably be in with open class again. So that's another possibility as well. And there's restrooms and everything in that Harney building. So
Yeah, that would be great. That's fantastic.
We'll
We'll pass that
look forward to
information back and, you know, if we select that as the venue, then they can accommodate whatever operational needs they have by looking at that particular location. And again,
And will you just give them Heather's contact information so she
I will.
can be juggling that into the program and into the press releases and into the layout as we get closer? That'd be great. Thank you.
absolutely. The second thing is just to note that, you know, the mass vaccination clinics are really coming to a close. That I think the efforts now are going to be, again, more of the mobile targeting, going to locations, going to employers, going to other venues to actually go out to the people rather than having them come to us. But there will continue to be some, and I just saw a schedule that has it at least through the end of May. There's still going to be some events scheduled at the exhibition hall for vaccination. And this is, I think, second dose clinics that are going to, so they've been doing some of the first dose clinics here, and they're going to follow them up with second dose clinics. But we are reaching the point where the exhibition hall will be returned back. We'll do a deep clean when that's all done and return back as part of the commons and be available for some of these other activities. So want to stay tuned for that.
You need anything from the board on the vaccination booth?
Well, I think I'm hearing or seeing a consensus of the board that if we can work out the logistics, that you'd like to see that part of the fair.
So be it.
Jim?
Me too.
Okay, great. So I think
All
that's
right.
it related to the fair event.
Okay. If Todd and Heather are finished, we can go to county staff update.
Let me start with the first one, is that we did work out the arrangements for the community garden. Thank you for your review of the proposed agreement. Jim made a very good suggestion in terms of the termination date, and we did revise that termination date. It was coming up too quick to be terminated before it's even started. Is essentially what was happening with this because of the way we're going. And so what we did is we ran it out to December 31st of 2022. And again, we've always got the ability, if all of a sudden fortunes change and schedules change, and talk about how we can change that in the future. But I think it's much more reasonable to run it out to December 31st. And so that change has been incorporated. So unless there's any other questions with that particular agreement, we'll get it executed and move forward with that.
Okay.
Todd and Heather, I'm not seeing fair dates on the calendar with move in, move out. Do you know your move in, move out dates yet?
July 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Well,
But you're not
We'll
moving in before.
we'll move in the first, which is the Thursday before. That's when the heavy
Okay.
vendor move in is, and then Monday will be move out. But Colleen,
Okay.
our open class superintendent, I think is going to start taking entries on Sunday before fair. So she'll need the main hall by Sunday.
Okay.
Is that
Thank
what you're
you.
looking for, Amy?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Heather.
You're
And,
welcome.
and Christy, or Amy, move us to Tuesday move out because we do have Rotary wanting to do their seize the day dolphin drop thing in the arena on Monday. So they'll be there doing that Monday. We tried to incorporate them during the Friday through Sunday schedule, but they opted to do it Monday instead. So that will be going on. Seize the day will be going on Monday, which probably will require some move out to happen on Tuesday.
Got it.
And one more item, and I forgot one item, and this is for specifically for Todd and Roy, is it looks like the city of Newport is going forward with their 4th of July, sort of a more traditional 4th of July celebration, which means they will be doing fireworks, and the Bayfront will be very, very crowded on the 4th of July. And so we just need to make sure we're coordinating the closure of Hardy Street and any of those activities with what they're doing there. So.
And Roy, I'll leave the details of the closure up to you, and Wayne, just so you know, we were anticipating that and we're scheduling our activities to allow time for people to partake of Bayfront festivities and fireworks. So I think we're all in alignment there.
Great.
Todd, we can talk about it later, but I want to make sure that when we close Harney, that it's as late as possible, because I don't know if it was the last time we closed it or the time before, but we closed Harney and then there wasn't anybody moving in for a few days. And because people could see from one end of Harney to the other, they were driving through our fueling facility around the barricades and driving down to 7th Street and on through. And so it's kind of like, I want to close it about the same time you're filling the street up with something. So it appears then that it's, totally impassable.
Yeah, and Roy, let's talk about it together. It may be that this year, one of the reasons that we closed that, of course, is that we have fair vendors parking on the opposite side of the street and 4-H vendors on the opposite side of the street. And so we're allowing for foot traffic to cross Harney unfettered. We also usually have a large dumpster and some other stuff on Harney as parking. This year, it may not. We may be small enough that we could, if I remember right, year before last, when we had the 4th of July on what I think was Thursday, we opted not to close Harney at all to give the city as much access and egress as we could. We maybe don't even need to close it this year at all. We're not going to have 4-Hers camping probably, or if we do, very few. It may be that we can get away without closing it. So let's talk about that in the weeks to come.
All right, yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, anything else, Wayne?
Nothing else from me?
I want to just report that I'm going to be out of the country on June 10th, and I don't know what my Wi-Fi capability will be. So you might want to see if both Jim and Claire are going to be available.
I'm doing a quick look at Claire's calendar. I'm pretty sure she's here.
Let me
Okay.
look at mine just a second.
She has the Fair Board meeting on her calendar.
I think June 10th will be okay for me.
All right, very good. And Wayne, what's the status with the composition of the Fair Board?
Well, we're after we get through the fair event this year, we're going to pick that back up. And part what the board wants to do is they would like to be able to, at some point, be able to do some more face-to-face interviews with folks who are interested. We've got the recommendations that you made as a fair board in terms of the composition, how many we'll do, but they'd like to be able to do some face-to-face interviews. And this is really the first face-to-face interviews actually were accomplished just the other day that we've been able to do without having to do video kinds of things. So I think what we'll do is we'll get through the fair event and then we'll pick this back up and move it forward.
Very good. Okay, is there anything else? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. And ladies.
Thank you all. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.
Safe travels, Frank.